Welcome back to Nick's Keto Kitchen. Today we're going to make barbecue pulled pork sliders. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start our barbecue pulled pork sliders with our pork. And I'll be cooking it in the Instant Pot pressure cooker today. Of course, you could do this in the oven, you could do it in other types of pressure cookers. Completely up to you. The Instant Pot's just handy. I like using it. So, I got about 4 pounds of pork butt here. I'm going to cut this into pieces to make it cook a little quicker. Okay, so I got my Instant Pot heating up on saute. I got my meat cut into chunks. I'm going to salt and pepper this, and then I'm just going to brown up the meat real quick. Okay, so we got everything browned up nicely. So we're turning this back off and we're adding all the meat back into the pressure cooker. We're going to sprinkle it with a tablespoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of cumin, and a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then we'll add 3/4 cup of chicken broth. Now we're gonna seal this and manual high pressure for 45 minutes. Then we'll let it naturally release for 15 to 20 minutes and then shred it with a couple of forks. So that's it for our pork. Let's move on. Okay, so now to move on to the rolls. Very important part of a sandwich. So we're going to be making a fathead dough. We're starting with 1.5 cups of mozzarella cheese, about 2 ounces of cream cheese, and we're going to melt this in the microwave in about 30-second increments until it's molten. Okay, so our cheese is all melted and mixed together. We're going to take an egg and we're going to add it to that mixture and combine it well. Then we're going to add 1.25 cups of almond flour and 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. Now with fathead dough, the stuff never combines very well. You could use a food processor, you could use a dough blade on a KitchenAid, or you could just do what I do and get in there with your hands and really work it. And you want to get this combined very well. Be careful though, because this will be hot. Okay, now everything's combined. We're going to store this in the freezer for a little bit while we preheat our oven. So to store it, we're going to get a little cling wrap, spray it with oil, wrap this up and throw it in the freezer. We're going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees, and while we're going to do that, let's throw an old pie pan in there just to help this dough rise a little bit nicer. So while preheating, throw the pan in. Okay, while we're waiting for our oven to preheat and the rolls to make, we'll make our coleslaw. This is going to be a pretty simple process. I start with a bag of coleslaw mix. It's easy, it's chopped up, it gives us a nice consistency. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of chopped up onion in there. And then we're going to start making our sauce in here. Okay, so for our sauce, as coleslaw does, you start with mayonnaise. And I'll put the recipe in the comments below. Heavy whipping cream, our sugar substitute, I use monk fruit. Salt, pepper, and celery seed. And some vinegar and lemon juice. We're going to mix this up really well. Okay, we got our sauce all mixed up, so we're going to pour this over our veggies here. We're going to stir it all together gently, and then we're just going to throw it in the refrigerator, and we're going to let it sit for a while. About a half hour or so is nice. Really let that flavor mix into these veggies. Okay, so our oven's now up to temperature. So we have our dough, took it out of the freezer. We're gonna cut this into 8 pieces and make 8 round balls for rolls. And we have a piece of parchment on a cookie sheet. We're just gonna plop these down, let them flatten out a little, and get these ready. Okay, I have all 8 rolls ready to go here. I have 6 to 8 ice cubes. What I'm going to do is throw those in the pan that's been preheating. I'm going to put these on the shelf just above it and bake 13 to 15 minutes. Now that everything else is cooking, let's get some barbecue sauce together. So we're going to start with 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce and 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste. This is going to make for the best consistency. Alright, and we're going to add some apple cider vinegar, Worcestershire and liquid smoke, powdered sweetener, garlic powder, paprika, salt, onion powder, and a little chili powder. We're going to take all this, we're going to put it on the stove, bring it up to a simmer, and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. And if it's a little thicker you could add a little bit of water to thin it out. But generally I find this combination is going to be pretty good. So onto the stove while we finish everything else off. Okay, so the pork is done out of the pressure cooker and super tender. We're going to use a couple of forks to shred it up, but it actually hardly takes anything. It pretty much falls apart just looking at it. So we're going to just get it all nice and evenly shredded up here. We'll dress it up with a little bit of our barbecue sauce, which we'll store in a glass mason jar for up to a couple weeks. And then we'll make up our sliders and have lunch. Now this pork smells pretty good on its own, so I'm not going to take all of it and mix it with the barbecue sauce. I'll just take some for now to make my lunch and use some for later. Of course, how much barbecue sauce is entirely up to you. I like it dripping. Take some of our little rolls here. And remember, these are sliders, they're small. But I'm gonna pack them full. And then I'm gonna take a little scoop of the coleslaw. It's been sitting for a while here. And there we go. keto barbecue pulled pork sliders, all within about an hour. I hope you enjoy this recipe, or these several recipes. I'll put links in the description below. If you have any questions, suggestions, ideas, comments, let me know, and I'll see you next time.